Well, Razorback fans, we felt like there would be some departures from the Razorback basketball team. And the first big one, Big Z. What does this mean? Well, let's talk about in today's Locked On Razorbacks podcast.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. I am your host, John Nabors. I am also the host of Inside Arkansas Live, which you can catch every weekday starting at noon on Inside Arkansas and InsideArkansas.com. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Hope everybody's having a wonderful Tuesday. This is the time of year where I need to make sure I remind all of you that transfer portal season is crazy to where I could record a podcast, something breaks, something gets crazy, big news, and suddenly that podcast is behind the times a little bit. So bear with me on that. I'm still going to wait as far into the night as I can, the night before at least, before recording the podcast, just in case something breaks, but you can't hold it against me if something does. All right, that's all I'm saying. You're just going to have to wait until the next episode because that's just the way it is this year. And it's exciting and it's crazy and it's scary overall. And we'll talk about some of the things that Arkansas is going to be looking at currently with the portal, some of the guys that he's in contact with, that is John Calipari. And we're also getting a little bit of football. Yes, football with spring football starting and resuming practices back up here today. But I wanted to get to the news, the big news, if you want to call it, that Big Z, Zvonimir Ivisic, has officially entered into the transfer portal. He was 7'2". He's going to be a junior this next season. And if you look at just his overall stats and everything, he averaged 8.5 points, hit 37.5% of his three-pointers, 4.5 rebounds, 2 blocks across 35 games this season. Now, some of you are going to feel a certain way about certain players leaving or certain players staying. It's almost polarizing in a way. There were some of you that when this announcement happened with Big Z, you were elated. You were excited. You were like, all right, yeah, great. Now we can get somebody else in, blah, blah, blah. And there were some of you that were bummed and like, man, I would have really liked to have seen him come back next season. Maybe he could develop. Maybe he could get better. And I feel like I fell into the in-between where if Cal wanted to have Big Z back, I'd be for it. And if Cal didn't want to have Big Z back, I'm for it. But I'm also on the other side where if Big Z just wanted to stay, great. If he wanted to leave, that's okay too. It's not like with the transfer portal, it doesn't have to be one of two things, folks. It doesn't have to be you want this player gone no matter what because they're terrible, or they need to stay no matter what because they're good. Like there can be an in-between where it works out best for every party. Sometimes it's hard for us to understand that when it comes to the transfer portal, and you can put that into any sport. It could be football, it could be basketball, it could be baseball. Not to say that there aren't circumstances where the player makes a mistake or the coach makes a mistake, because that's going to happen. It has happened. But to immediately jump to that conclusion where you have to be on one side or the other is just not the way that the portal works. And this is a prime example of Big Z. The thing about Big Z is that I really liked the idea of him. I mean, he was the first player that committed to Cal when he took the job at Arkansas. He was, I think it was maybe the next day that the announcement happened that he was going to follow him to Arkansas. And the excitement was there because there's something unique about a guy who is 7'2" that can hit threes, that is from a foreign country. You know, there's just a lot of interesting storylines to go along with him. I don't know really what the expectation was. I felt like for the most part going into the season before all the injuries and all that came out, I always took him at least as a bench player, as a guy coming off the bench, giving you 15 minutes, 20 minutes maybe, hitting some threes, getting some shots, being maybe a matchup problem on occasion, and that would be it. But because of the injuries, because of Jonas Adu having to deal with what he had to deal with and all that, he was kind of forced into a role that was more than what I think a lot of people expected. Now, did he perform well? Yes. I mean, I was looking at some of his stats and everything, and there was a time in the middle of SEC play, dude was averaging like 18 points a game, and he was killing it from three. I mean, there were some games this season where he went out. I think it was even the LSU game may have been the best example of it, where he went out and he performed incredibly. Possibly the only reason why Arkansas won the game. But then there were times that he was nowhere to be found. And that's what makes a player like him so hard to figure out as far as if he's going to be great, if he's going to be not great, if you want him or if you're not. Because he, just like every other player on this team, was up and down all around. None of it really made sense. None of it really added up. It was just confusing. Big Z's highs were extremely high. When he was on his A game, he was fun. He was great to watch. But his lows were very low. You know, I think back to that Auburn game on the road where Arkansas should have won that game, and he goes 0 of 10. You know, I think back to the NCAA tournament and postseason play, essentially, where he just didn't really play at all. Wasn't really a factor in anything. And in fact, when he got in, it seemed like he was completely and totally lost. Had no idea where he was at, had no idea what to do. And it looked like he was just being inserted into the game for the first time. Now, I'm not saying all that to insult him. I'm just saying that because it's really indicative of what this season was about. The only player that really felt consistent on the type of player that they were was DJ Wagner. Because I think back to every single player on this roster this past season, and there was a time each and every one of them went through a really rough patch. And then there were times where every single one of them went through a great spell and had a great stretch of games. Sometimes it was an SEC play, whatever it was. I mean, think about it. Nelly Davis, I didn't know what this guy was in the beginning of the year. It just felt like this huge, big-time get was supposed to be the experienced guy to lead you to something. And there were times he looked, like he just didn't even want to play. It was weird. But then you got the Nelly that we were all hoping for as the season went on, and especially in postseason play, the guy was incredible. Same thing with Adu Thero. Same thing with Trevin Brazil. Same thing with Jonas Adu. Same thing with Boogie Fland, Billy Richmond. Carter Knox is also probably one of the closer ones that got consistent, but there were games where he'd go out there and hit a couple threes, get 13 points. And there's other times he didn't even take a shot. So there was just this all over the place deal where it was hard to really know who's good. Who's good enough that you want him back? Who's good enough that you want to do whatever it takes to keep him on campus? That's Cal's job. That's his coaching staff's job. But if they felt like Big Z was not one of those guys that they had to keep, had to bring in, then that's fine. And I don't know what exactly the circumstance was. Maybe this was one of those deals to where Big Z wanted to leave. Maybe he didn't feel right in the system. Maybe he didn't feel right or didn't feel like it was going to be something beneficial for him to stay at Arkansas. But who knows? Maybe he goes to Illinois and joins his brother. I think that would be a distinct possibility. But I say all that to say this. I wish Big Z nothing but the best. I have no ill will, no ill feelings towards him. I'm going to root for him as long as he doesn't go to another SEC school. I hope he plays really well. But this is the same type of feeling, folks, that you have to appreciate, love, and enjoy the ride of the Calipari experience at Arkansas. It was always really good under Eric Musselman. It was good under even Mike Anderson at times. But it felt like that you were going to really need to pull off some sort of miracle or some sort of crazy thing to get the top tier players. And you felt like that the players that you brought in out of the transfer portal, they had to hit, and they had to hit immediately, and there was no other option. Because if they didn't hit, you're going to be in no man's land, essentially. So the margin for error was so small when it came to hitting on all the players you got, because of the fact that you weren't able to just guarantee that you'd get high level, elite level, NBA caliber talent players. But that's not the case anymore when you have John Calipari as your coach. Now, I don't think John Calipari can just write down a couple of names and say, these are the guys I want, and then full pledged, no problem, no questions asked. He gets those players no matter what. I don't think it's to that level. But if you think about the caliber of talent that he is scouting, that he is looking at, that he's trying to bring in here at Arkansas, this is a whole nother animal, folks. It's given me the confidence to believe that no matter who it is, if it's a transfer portal player, if it's a number 1 5-star McDonald's All-American coming out of high school, if it's a player that's overseas, any of those things, if Cal wants them, if Arkansas wants them, they're going to have just as good, if not better, of a chance to get that player because of their situation. That's confidence that you can't buy. That's a feeling of like Razorback baseball where it doesn't matter who they are or what they're doing. You feel confident that you can get them to come and play here. That's the Cal effect. I have no doubt in my mind whatsoever that John Calipari will bring in an amazing amount of talent. That he'll bring in a group of individuals and a group of players that are going to be good enough to compete at the highest level. He has everything he needs to do so, and he's going to get after it. And we've already seen it a little bit so far as the players that they're talking to, which we'll talk about, give you an update here in just a second. But enjoy this ride, folks. I know you're going to get impatient because I get impatient. I hate recruiting. I hate talking about portal stuff in the light of not because it's not important, because it is, but just because it's so fluid and it's so crazy and it's hard to keep up with. So don't over stretch yourself and freaking out about the smallest things. Let the chips fall in place. Because this is the ultimate question I'll ask you before we move on. This is the question because I have to ask myself and I'm going to ask you folks. Do you trust John Calipari? Do you trust John Calipari to go out and get the best level of players possible? Do you trust him to do that? I do. He's not going to hit on all of them. They're all not going to be rock stars the second they go on the walk on campus. I get it. But I trust John Calipari to put together his roster. I think it's going to really work out this year. I think he learned some things from this past season. I think that Arkansas also ran into some bad luck this past season. And I think that this is going to be a fun, adventurous offseason of additions that's also going to come with some subtractions. So just enjoy the ride, folks. Just enjoy the ride. That's all I can say. But we'll talk about some of the updates of some of the players that Arkansas is looking at right now in the transfer portal here in just a second. So stay with us on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. All right, Razorback fans, I'm here to tell you about Monarch Money. Ever check into your bank account and wonder, where'd all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. But that's where Monarch Money comes in handy. Your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center where you can track all of your accounts, investments, and spending all in one place. So you just stop managing your money and start building your wealth. Instead of juggling all these multiple apps and trying to keep it all up together, you can use Monarch to check in on all your finances, track your spending, and even plan long-term goals. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever, and you can always track where your personal accounts are and where they're shared. Set goals and stay on the same page without all the stress to go along with it too. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. We're also brought to you by our friends over at Game Time. Imagine watching your favorite team live, feeling the energy of the crowd, when witnessing unforgettable moments. There's nothing better than that. Getting tickets shouldn't be stressful. That's where Game Time comes into play, making it easier than ever to grab last-minute seats at unbeatable prices. Game Time Bix curation makes it easier to find better value for tickets to sports, concerts, comedy, theater shows, all of those things. And anytime you check the Game Time app, there are some amazing deals on some of the biggest events that are around me, and they will be the same around you. They have the lowest price guarantee, or Game Time will credit you with 110% of the difference. It's a peace of mind when it comes to buying your tickets. So you can view the seats before you buy with no surprise fees and a lowest price guarantee. You can book all the time with total confidence. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. That's LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. All right, so moving on into the next segment of the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. So it comes down to this, folks. What is Arkansas needing in the transfer portal? What are they looking at? Who are they looking at? Well, everyone. Why not? Like, it's so funny to see the differences between the transfer portal and the players that were contacted and everything when Eric Musselman was head coach to now with Arkansas and John Calipari as their head coach. Not saying one's better than the other, but just saying it's different. And right now, Arkansas has got a few players that they're really looking at and ones that could be really exciting. I'm excited to see because, again, I feel so confident about everything. And maybe that's a problem because it's going to be overconfidence. But, like, for instance, this kid that got me all hot and bothered over here is Yaxel Lindborg. I mean, this kid's name is Yaxel. 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 And he has heard from a bunch of different schools. He's a transfer portal kid out of UAB, and he's really good. just putting it lightly. He averaged almost 18 points a game, 11.5 rebounds, 4.5 assists, and 2 blocks per game this season. He's a 6'9 junior. Now, he's also declared for the NBA draft, which, you know, that's just the way it is nowadays. You can kind of check out what you're looking at, see where you grade out at, and then you can make the choice to come back if you so please. But that's the type of player that Arkansas is looking at. What is that called? What is that referred to? Oh, yeah, it's called a big-time player. That's who they're looking at, okay? So you're talking about someone to his caliber that Razorback fans can at least keep an eye on and see if they end up being a part of it. You think about him. You think about also, I mean, first off, it's insane how many players enter in the portal just in the same day. But you think about one of the newest ones, at least from the time of the recording of this podcast, Malik, who is down to 5 schools, who's an Indiana transfer. He's 6'9", and he averaged 13.5 points, 5.5 rebounds, 2 assists this season. He's got Auburn, Michigan, Miami, USC, and Arkansas as his top schools. So he's another big-time player that people are going to be looking at. You also have, again, it's hard to keep up with. Sometimes it's just like feeling out, all right, so what direction are they going to go? But like a kid like from Illinois, he's got a lot of schools in the mix. But Perez Johnson, who has his agent going out there saying these are the schools that they're hearing from, he's one of them. So who knows? Maybe they end up, Big Z goes there to Illinois and they get Johnson over here to Arkansas, and it's just a clean swap. If that ends up being the case, that could be something that happens here very soon. But the point is that they are going at it when it comes to the portal and contacting players, and they're not settling for anybody. Like the guys that they're going to be looking at are going to be players, are going to be dudes that there's an expectation as soon as they walk into the door. And I'm not saying that they will for sure get to that point once they do walk through the door, but that's how high the expectation is going to be. They're not messing around when it comes to just looking at just anybody. Like they want the big time dudes. They want the big time players to be a part of it. But, another player that is somebody to look at, Henry Visar. See, I'm terrible with names, but he's the 7-foot dude over from Arizona. He's got 2 seasons left. He averaged close to 10 points a game, 5 rebounds a game, assist and a half, and a block shot per game. And he's somebody that I think Arkansas is at least very interested in at the very minimum. Enough to talk to him, because I think that's probably one of the most important things is, hey, are you big enough to talk to? Are you big enough to at least get a Zoom call, if you will, with them? And then, of course, Lamar Wilkerson. My own coworker's name's Curtis Wilkerson, and yet I can't even get his last name right, apparently. But either way, he might be the one that I think most Razorback fans are excited about because he is an in-state kid, or at least a former in-state kid. He's from Arkansas. He's at Sam Houston State, and he completed Zooms with Auburn and Kansas and Ole Miss. SMU is another one, and also Arkansas. So you're talking about some really big-time programs that is going to be interested in him. He's averaging 20.5 points a game, 4 rebounds, and he shot 44.5% from 3. I feel like that's pretty good. So either way, that's just a kind of a quick rundown of what they're looking at. There's a lot that can change. There's a lot more players that are going to be entering into the portal that might have to be looked at. There are ones that, a lot of you may be interested in, may not be. One of these names I throw out there, you may never hear from again. But that's what makes it fun. We'll keep you updated on all of that each and every day and give you a rundown of it because it's exciting. It's fun, entertaining. But we're going to have to talk some football, spring football. It resumes their spring practice today. So we'll get into that. So stay with us here on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. All right, all you Razorback fans out there, get the supplies you need from the site made for skilled trades, that is Supply House. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the reliable way to order all your products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400-plus top brands, you'll find exactly what you need delivered fast from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you'll always want to talk to a real person. And for trade pros looking for an extra edge, their free Trade Master program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage, and now it's your turn. Join the Trade Master program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com.
The NCAA tournament is here, and so is the bracket breakdown.
Locked On Podcast Network and Amazon Fire TV channels are teaming up to deliver NCAA tournament coverage like never before. Watch studio shows featuring former players and Locked On's local experts as they guide you through every upset, buzzer beater, and bracket matchup.
Stream it all for free on Amazon Fire TV channel. Search Bracket Breakdown to see it all for free.
It's your team every day.
All right, so final segment here on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. Spring football is a thing. I'm trying not to be this way, folks, because I hate being this way. I hate being the way of just lacking excitement or really the intrigue for spring football right now. And that can change. And because I'm going to talk about it, especially if there's something that comes out from it or if there's something of note that we hear from Sam Pittman or whatever it is. It's going to be talked about and covered. But I feel like I pride myself on having a good handle and a good pulse on the fan base. I've been doing a podcast for a long time. And as they say, numbers never lie. I see the numbers and I see when people listen the most and when people don't. When people watch the most and when people don't. And because of that fact, it's helped me be able to kind of come up with formulas, which is why I do Inside Arkansas, of giving the people what they want. That's what I try to do. Sometimes I take risks. Sometimes I try new things. Doesn't mean it always hits. Doesn't mean it's always going to work. But it's always there if I need it. But spring football, I cannot tell you how little excitement I feel from that. I'm not talking about just for myself. I'm talking about from the fan base. Like, it'll get talked about, but I know basketball is just coming off of a Sweet 16 appearance, so that really garnered everyone's attention. But man, I feel like none of you have said, "Hey, John, what do you think about spring practice? How the football teams? What's the offense going to be like? What's the wide receiver position? How good is that looking? How good is that coming along?" It's just sad. It's sad. I wish there was more excitement to it. I wish there was more woo to it, but there's not. And that's probably not going to change. I think the basketball side of things has everyone so excited. And, of course, baseball getting going. And they have a game tonight, actually, in North Little Rock at Dickey Stevens Ballpark, which always garners some excitement. But it just gives the vibe right now that it's not to that level. It's not to that level. It's a very wait-and-see approach. But I will say this. If there are some things that I would be interested in seeing from spring practice, although there's only so much you can see because they have restricted practices and they've restricted scrimmages like never before. Shocker there. If there's anything, it's about how Talon Green's going to look in having a completely new surrounding support cast, essentially. But also, is this going to be a team that clicks quickly? Or is it going to be a team that loses guys in the portal when spring ends? gain some people out of the portal when spring ends? Is there going to be any sort of drama? Is there going to be any sort of controversies? Is there going to be any sort of position battles? Is there going to be anything of note that I can look at, that everyone can look at and be like, I wonder how that's going to turn out? Because if I asked each and every one of you to name me your guess for the 3 starting wide receivers this season, I would bet dollars to donuts that almost none of you can. Same with the D-line. Same with the secondary. That's not a knock on you. It's not a knock on me. That's just the reality. So that's what we're going to have to wait and see on. But I think that there could be some really good positive things that come out of this spring practice. I really do. I'm really hoping that there is. I really hope that Taylon Green looks crisp. I'm really hoping that some of these guys that we don't know about from the transfer portal that came from these smaller schools really are showing out and showcasing their abilities. I'm really hoping that all happens and that all is the case. But, man, it's almost like I got to have it come to me first. You can't go searching for the excitement. You got to let the excitement happen. Because I'm just not built to be that guy to just manufacture some excitement and energy over something that has none. I can't fake that. I don't think you can either. But we'll see. We'll see. Baseball's still going. A lot of good stuff going on. So we appreciate it. Each and every one of you listening into the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or on Google Play. You can also get after me on Twitter at John Nabors Show for any questions, comments, concerns that you may have. We'll keep it going from there. Same podcast time, same podcast channel tomorrow afternoon. Have a great rest of your day, everybody. See you then.